Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our first virtual International Student Career Forum. I'm Sarah, and I work at the Career Center at Seton Hall, and I'm also joined by my colleague Bob and Risa, who you may hear from time to time. And today we're going to be delivering some topics of real vital importance. And it's regarding the international student job search. And we're going to be hearing from some of our panel of experts in their areas of expertise. We'll also save some time at the end for some question and answers from the audience and from our panelists. So again, please remember to go ahead and pop those into the Q&A box up there. And I'll begin by asking our panelists to briefly introduce themselves, providing their name, where they've landed, or where they're currently working, as well as their country of origin. So we'll begin with Marius, then Nimra, followed by Juliana, and if Garnett is going to join us, then he'll be last. All right, great. Thank you. And Nimra, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nimra. I'm from Pakistan. I'm a senior majoring in accounting and IT. I'll be graduating this semester and working with Deloitte as a tax consultant.
Thanks, Nimra. And Juliana?
Hey everyone, my name is Juliana. I am a junior majoring in finance, marketing, and IT, and I'm an international student too from Colombia. This summer I will be interning with EY as a technology risk advisory intern.
Great, thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. So let's go ahead and jump into our conversation. Marius, I want to start with you first. If we could talk about some of the resources that you used when you started your search. For example, what physical and I guess most importantly during these times, online resources did you use?
So starting with physical, because I was just gonna go through very quick. These are, let's say, connections that are more close to you regarding colleagues, friends, professors. It's good to keep a good relationship with them because you may never know from where somebody needs to hire and they might be, let's say, the quickest way or the easiest way to land a job. Further meetings, don't waste any opportunity to go to a meeting in terms of, let's say, also related with your school or your profession. But most of them have also networking parts, have also career fairs. So definitely, if you get the chance to do that, now it's a little bit harder, but who knows in the future when the things will come back to normal. Now going to online resources that you can access. Definitely the online job platforms. I'll mention a few of them. From which I'll put LinkedIn the first one. All right. Then Glassdoor can give you salary insights. You can find out reviews from other people that worked at those companies. And on Indeed, you can find a very large number of jobs, which most of the times you can find them also on LinkedIn and Glassdoor. Just that Indeed seems a little bit more professional from the point of view of doing the application quick and being strictly on the subject there with the application. Career build, it's another one. And now I'll come back to LinkedIn. As being student at Seton Hall University, you have this big opportunity of accessing LinkedIn Learning. So through LinkedIn Learning, you can learn how to build your resume. You can get information regarding how to prepare yourself for a job interview. There are so many things that you can do on it. And being part of Seton Hall community, you have access to it for free. Let's say like this, paying, being a student, being registered, you can access this freely. Now, another thing that you can do on LinkedIn is to connect with people, to connect with professionals. And what they also give you at LinkedIn, they give you recommendations when you build your profile there and you put your experience and what you're interested in. They can give you recommendations of people from industry which are related in terms of job work with you, and you can approach them. Now, don't expect that you'll receive answers from everybody, but it's a way to start. It's a way to start where you can put some questions, where you can get some insights regarding the company, regarding the jobs, regarding some advices, things like this. Another thing, when you're gonna start to apply, you're gonna see that there are jobs which are being offered directly by the company, and there are jobs that are being offered through recruiter companies. It's good to not oversee also that, because going with a recruitment company, they can also help you in terms of prepping you for interviews. So I had some very nice experiences with some companies, recruiting companies, which before going to an actual interview at the company which was offering the job, they prepped me for the actual interview. So that was, from my point of view, that was a very nice interview, and the tips were very good and helped me to be more comfortable at the interview. All right, I don't know too much about online network meetings, but I think these days they might be more, they will start more and more. So maybe also that is it's a direction where you can network. So keep your eyes also open for that. Another thing, I'll strongly encourage you, when you have a passion for something, when you know I would like so much to work at a certain company, and you have some ideas, why do you want to work at this company, what you would like to accomplish, try to connect with people from that company and explain a little bit yourself, explain a little bit your goals, and you may never know how this might open some doors for you. So this is my, let's say, my advices. These are my advice.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marius. I think what really resonated with me and probably the audience as well is just making yourself comfortable and putting yourself out there. It seems like multiple platforms really helps you, that online and physical search. I do see Garnett is on the call. Garnett, if you could unmute yourself, and we'll go ahead and have you introduce yourself as well. All right, great. Go ahead,
All right,
Garnett.
everyone. Sorry, I can't do a video. My laptop decided to update a couple minutes, so I had to use my work laptop, which is has limited permissions for screen share. So apologies there.
That's
so
okay. Everyone will just see my face then when you're talking. Hopefully that's okay.
Yeah, basically, I believe my update should be completed prior to the end of this, so you guys can see me at some point. So my name is Garnett. I am a alumni of Seton Hall, class of 2012. I am a manager of IT infrastructure at Prudential. The infrastructure that my team manages specifically is application performance monitoring. So I'm responsible for enterprise application performance. Anytime there are issues, my team gets engaged, and we have to identify the root cause and bring back up the service. So that's what I do in summary. I've been at Prudential. This year will be my 9th year, and I, as well as a lot of you, was an international student. So while I was at Seton Hall, should I just be the introduction, or should I give some background on my transition?
That's great for now, Garnett, and then we'll go ahead and ask for more information as we dig deeper. So thank you so much. I'm so happy that all of you can join us on our panel today. Okay. So just going back to the insight that Marius had provided with regards to some of the resources that he was using, Juliana, I'm just wondering if there were any that you might add, or if you want to hone in on one of the ones that he had mentioned, any positive experiences that you might share?
Yeah, for sure. I know for LinkedIn, I spend way too much time on LinkedIn personally. I navigate it as one of my social media, just like I do with Instagram and Snapchat and everything. The opportunities that I've gotten out of it are things that I never even imagined I would have done. So just connecting with people, filtering down. If maybe there's a particular company I'm interested in, I can filter out maybe Seton Hall alumni that work in that company. That's actually how I met Garnett one time too, through in Prudential and stuff like that. So really utilizing LinkedIn to meet people and establishing those connections. Now, especially because of quarantine, I know he mentioned LinkedIn Learning. I've been using LinkedIn Learning a lot too. You can get certificates. So for example, with my internship with EY, I'm going to be working a lot in programming and just IT. And say as a junior, I've only worked with a couple different programming softwares. So through LinkedIn Learning, I'm learning about other softwares like Tableau, Power BI, Python, and things that I haven't really had the chance to learn in school. So in that sense, also just not only doing things for your classes, but trying to go out there and try something and learn something new during these times too.
Nice. Thanks, Juliana. Yeah, it kind of goes full circle. So with that being said, Garnett, do you have any advice for finding resources during this time in the search for opportunities, either full-time or intern?
Yeah, definitely LinkedIn is would be my go-to resource. But your network, that is you should leverage your network, because your network is very large. The people that you interact with can point you in the direction of others who have information and knowledge on opportunities. So like Juliana, she was part of the sophomore mentorship program where I was a mentor, and she met me through there. And upon probably a couple months after the event, I had her email information along with members of that sophomore mentorship program cohort, and I sent them information about our internship opportunities. So just by getting in touch with individuals, nurturing that relationship, you will be able to get a lot of details and opportunities. Like as an international student, it's not every opportunity will be applied to you, but just having that knowledge, and when you're having the network, inform of your situation, and they can help you navigate and provide advice, connect with others, and that will help you broaden your scope rather than have a narrow scope with limited opportunities. You can then broaden it, and yeah, that is what I would leverage. Now that we have so much downtime during the quarantine, it's a good opportunity to start nurturing, reconnecting with these individuals. So I would recommend that. Also, yes, the online learning, like self-learning, is very important. It shows how proactive and productive you are. You can develop a lot of credentials doing that and make yourself more marketable. And then once you become more marketable, they would make exceptions when considering you for opportunities, despite you being an international student.
Great. Thank you so much, Garnett. That's so insightful and so important right now during these times, especially take a lot of different approaches and leveraging a lot of different people in the greater networking. Thank you for that. Next, let's hear from Nimra. If you could please discuss some of the challenges that you faced as an international student. I know that we've kind of been talking about some of those in some of the comments we've already shared, but particularly in your search, if you could talk about one particular experience or just a few.
Sure, and thank you, Sarah. So hopefully most of you can relate to it, that when filling out a job application, you feel confident that you're done with it, and all of a sudden this question pops up: do you require sponsorship to work in the US now or in the future? And every time it pops up, I feel that it reminds me when I was a child, all dressed up to go to my friend's house, and all of a sudden my mom would ask, don't you think you need your mommy's permission? So I just feel that the US government is our mommy and actually telling us that we need its permission. And I feel that's the biggest challenge that we face as international students. True story, that once I thought I had got that job, but the last moment when submitting the application, that question popped up and it said that the company doesn't sponsor international students. So my confidence was so much shattered that I even doubted my decision to come to the US. But actually, it's in those vulnerable times that you realize that nothing is the end of the world, and you have to stay very persistent and patient. Yes, it's hard for us international students. We have to put in double the effort, but it's not impossible. So I feel that the key is to plan ahead and to start early. Like, you have to use your resources wisely, the Career Center, OIP, Office of International Programs. And to all the underclassmen that are in the audience, it's never too early to start. Begin building your network and your resume. That's going to go a long way. And also the other challenges that we face are language barriers or cultural differences. So for example, I come from a culture where it's not very common for opposite genders to shake hands, but then you have to adapt yourself and be flexible, and like adapt to the mannerisms which are in the country that you want to work in. So all of it comes with practice, and you can master the communication part and like all the struggle, but then you have to put in the effort and practice and have to stay persistent and patient about it. So staying strong in those moments, that was the biggest challenge that I faced.
Thanks so much, Nimra. I really appreciate your take on this. I feel like it seems like an overwhelming task sometimes to go through this process, especially when you have such ups and downs, but it seems like your success is what is gotten you through this. And I'm wondering if, Marius, as you went through the experience, as Nimra was saying, sort of the peaks and valleys, did your career plans change? Did you ever feel through your job search similar experiences? Oh,
okay. We got the same. I got the same. Let's say in most of the job application, that question where they ask you, do you have the work authorization? And I was like, yes, I have it. I'm so happy. Then second question was, do you need now or in the future visa sponsorship? I'm like, yes, and the process of application ended ended there, or most of the jobs replied to me back saying that they are not offering sponsorship. Now you have to just completely erase that and to understand, yes, this is the politics of that company, and might be, let's say, 70% of the companies on the market that are doing this, and you need to focus on the other 30% that are offering. Okay, so that's the most important part, because yeah, I spend a lot of time, and how my colleague was saying, your confidence gets low and you feel that you're not good enough, that you haven't done enough, your resume is not good enough to impress them, when actually it's just a robot there that completely deletes your application without anybody being able to see your resume or being able to see. So this is what I'm saying to all the students: don't focus on those 70% of the cases in which the application, if that question is there, most of the times your application will be completely erased. I can say that at the beginning, kind of like this forced me to, besides of, let's say, lowering a little bit of confidence, pushes me also to kind of like start to apply randomly to any kind of company related to my field, and saying, okay, now I cannot be picky anymore. I'll just gonna start applying crazy to any kind of company that needs a chemist. And I can say that that wasn't wasn't the best decision. While waking up in at job interviews for positions at which they weren't really on my field, or they weren't really what I wanted to work, then I wake up, all right, why am I doing this to myself? Only because I want to work here in US, only because I wasn't feeling comfortable, and I was saying, oh yes, I'm gonna go here to this job and stay there for some time, get my work visa or something like this, and then jump on another company. I was still not feeling okay. So I let's say, going down, I say, still follow your dreams, go to the jobs in the company at which you feel that you're gonna, let's say, advance in your career. It's what you like, it's what you want. And one thing to say, US is such a big country. You're an international student, so most of the times you don't have your family here. You're not connected to something to New Jersey. You can go anywhere in United States. And if a job will gonna offer you sponsorship in Texas, I say, and if it's what you want, and you see yourself growing in that position, and what the job is offering you, go for Texas.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm so glad that we can laugh about some of these experiences now, Marius. Thank you for being honest with that. Juliana, just as a follow-up, I'm wondering if you made any adjustments that led to your success in your search.
Yeah, of course. I was actually, my freshman year, I was a business undecided major. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And because of all the experiences I had and people I was meeting, I realized that most of the, at least in the business field, most of the positions that have higher chances of hiring international students were more technical positions in terms of technology or IT. And so by making kind of like this trend, I was meeting a lot of alumni, and it just so happened that most of them worked in IT or did something technology related. My sophomore year, I decided to declare IT as my major, and I also really like marketing, and I also really like finance. So I was like, oh, why not triple major? So that's where I'm at right now. But again, in that sense, it was kind of like I really took my time freshman and sophomore year to try to identify those, because again, as you said, we have to make double the effort. So in that sense, I want to make myself as marketable as possible, and having the triple major, but also having that focus on IT, I knew was going to set me apart one way or another. So that I think that was the biggest change I made, and I know I relate to all of them. Every time I apply and see that question of do you need visa sponsorship, my hopes just go like, wow, like this is how far we got. And like in my case, I had I think 3 internships so far that I had the contract, the offer in my hands. And before I would sign it, I would ask about sponsorship, maybe because during the process it never came up. And when I would bring it up, they would literally take the offer away, which is literally heartbreaking and stuff like that. So I know we all go through those struggles, but I know as Nimra and Marius were saying, like you just have to keep trying. That's the only way you can go.
Definitely, thank you. Patience, perseverance, they're all key. Seems like this is a trend, definitely. Garnett, if you're able to unmute yourself there, I'm just wondering if you could share, as an experienced alumni, any thoughts on what makes up a successful candidate. If you could talk to us a little bit about your experience.
Yep, sure thing. So with my experience, I did a lot of research. Being an international student, you know that the odds are against you, and you have to be positive, do a lot of research, and better prepare yourself for these opportunities. So one of the things I did early, well, actually, it was a passion from my youth, was IT. So I knew I wanted to be in the IT field, but did not know exactly where. So I continued researching. I was able to declare my major early, but in order for me to get job opportunities, I would first need to get a social security and a social security card, and also approval from the Department of Homeland Security if an employer was interested. So a lot of employers, they don't like to, if they are considering you for an opportunity and they find out that you're an international student, it's having to go through that process might deter them. So what I did, I started getting jobs on campus. There are a lot of jobs on campus that international students are eligible for. And I would urge you guys to, if there are opportunities, apply for them, because once you have that social security card available to you, yes, with that social security card, it has a statement authorized for work. I forgot the exact wording, but you get approval from the Department of Homeland Security. Once you have that available and you start applying for opportunities and they're interested, you already fulfill one of the prerequisites, and other prerequisites will be to be qualified. So you want to develop your brand, you want to work on soft skills, you want to showcase your expertise and talents in certain areas, so that they will definitely consider you, because you have to go above and beyond other potential candidates. So work on skills, like I worked on my Microsoft certification. I still am, but I have to get recertified. But I was an MCP, Microsoft Certified Professional, and I basically with the Microsoft Office suite, so Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint. But Excel, once you are you're advanced in Excel, can build macros, you're good with data synthesizing, because data goes in any industry. So like, as long as you can analyze data and stuff, and you're very proficient and your skill levels above average, you employers will look at you as an asset. So with me being proficient there, I decided to pursue certifications to basically build my brand. And when I applied for internship opportunities. Similar to for Marius, I did not inform them that I was an international student until the end, because you giving them that information up front, you are being eliminated before they have an opportunity to know who you are, your skills, and how you can contribute to the organization. So you don't want to eliminate yourself from the start. You want to get them to like you. You want them to show interest. And once you get to the end of the process, you can then inform them that of your status. At that point, they will have to make a decision on whether, and well, at that point they will like you, they want to give you the offer. So now they have to make a decision on whether it's worth going through that whole process to get you authorization. So they have to get a letter. You have to go to the Social Security office to get the Social Security card. But as I mentioned earlier, if you already have that, you already completed one of the prerequisites, and you can inform them of that. Oh, I already have a Social Security card. I just need a letter so I can take to the Office of International Programs so that I can apply for CPT, curricular practical training. That is, you can do that in alignment with a co-op, like during the semester. You can do a co-op class and work at the same time. In the summer, you don't have to do a class, you can just do the internship. So that was, so one thing I forgot to mention, check with your Office of International Programs to understand what opportunities are available, because the CPT is a great opportunity for you to market yourself to potential employers. And then once you are, when you graduate, you have OPT, which is a year, and in STEM fields, there's like an extension for 2 additional years. So you can build rapport with a lot of individuals within the organization and basically plan your next steps in the process for your employment. You can, once, again, my situation, I got the internship. They asked me to stay on for the fall and spring. So my internship was in the summer. They asked me to stay on for the fall and spring. I ended up having to quit soccer. I was playing for the Seton Hall team, Seton Hall men's team, and I had to quit soccer in order to pursue my career. So I stayed on for the fall and spring. I graduated, and when I graduated, that's when I leveraged my OPT. And during that whole time, I was working with members within my organization, HR and others, so we can align when we have to apply for sponsorship, because Prudential sponsored me and I was able to get my green card. Well, I got my work permit first, and then they were able to pursue another sponsorship, and I was eligible for my green card. I have to look up the requirements for that, but I got my green card. So, like, you have to continue. Once you get an employer who's interested in you, you definitely want to nurture that relationship. You want to continue working closely with them, and also you want to ensure you have your path, a clear path. Another thing I would like to add, as a professional, I do source talent. I do interview candidates and stuff. So when I am looking at candidates, I look for certain soft skills to determine basically the persona of that individual. So if I see someone involved in leadership organizations in school, I know that they're ambitious, they have collaborative and communication skills because they interact with a lot of people and they have the ability to lead because well, that's one of the reasons they're in that leadership organization, and they are also trying to grow. So, like, we're looking for individuals who have experience for opportunity, but we can't rule out individuals who don't have experience because there are circumstances beyond their control. So I look for certain things there. I look at what they're studying. I'll ask them questions about projects, scenario-based situations where how they deal with conflict resolution, how they collaborate, and like a variety of questions I would ask in the interview. And because when you go into a workplace, you can have a lot of technical skill, but if you can't interact well and work with others, it defeats the purpose, because you won't be able to, the organization would not be able to move forward and leverage your skills if you can't collaborate. So yes, these skills are definitely important, the technical skills and knowledge of whatever industry you're in or whatever skill set you have. That is very important, but you also need to have that those other skill sets. Problem solving, troubleshooting, like you shows that you're a critical thinker, because we give you a use case and we would like to leverage your perspective and your experience to solve it. So like people who are in the math field or IT field, they have strong critical thinking, and like there are other fields that have very valuable soft skills and that can be leveraged. So I would like take a step back, like look and see what I want to do, and like in my future career, and then identify what are the soft skills and continue working on it. Public speaking. As international students, some of us have accents, and that's something that I did. I had to go and work on my speaking, articulate my words properly, because you're going to be speaking to different audiences, and you want your delivery to be clear and concise. So those are certain things. And when you mention those things in your interview, or I did public speaking to help improve on certain things, because yes, you have strengths, but you have also areas of development, and you're showing that you're trying to make yourself well-rounded, and you're putting in the additional effort, being proactive to be more qualified and build your brand. So those are things I would look at. Anything else to add? I'll pause there for questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You know, you had such a wealth of information there. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I appreciate you reminding our audience members, please go ahead and use the Q&A feature there in the little chat box to submit questions or comments, or if you wanted any of our panelists to elaborate or explain certain elements of what they're talking about, we'd be happy to look at those and review those. Thank you, Garnett. I feel like it's really easy to forget. You had mentioned working on campus while you're in the job search. It's very easy to focus in on trying to get something that's major related, but you can definitely gain a lot of those soft and hard skills that you were talking about working on campus, and as well making sure that you're following in line with anything you need to as far as at the Career Center or the rules and regulations that the Office of International Programs, as well as your faculty member need for you to follow. So thank you for that. Just as a follow-up, Marius, I'm wondering if you could share any particular, I'm sorry?
Sorry about that. I thought I was on mute.
Oh, it's okay. Any particular soft skills or hard skills that you've seen in your field that are preferred, either generally or major specific?
So I'll echo a little bit Garnett's, let's say, part with getting involved on campus. That's from my part, from my point of view, it's equally important as your technical skills, and also can bring you, let's say, some recommendations, because finishing as an undergrad and not having job experience, that will be the only thing that will distinguish you from other students that's at your same level. The fact that you got involved in other things, and you can get a recommendation from a faculty that advised you through these things, and you can talk about how you manage a project. Regarding soft skills, you can gain them also through these experiences. And what I can say, being a president and being part of two organizations around the campus, gets you kind of exposed to how a project is being organized, how you request for funding, how you deal with the team. And like all the times they are in the teams all kinds of views, and not all the time the views of everybody fall out in the same direction. You kind of learn also how to deal with this, and how to do what is best for the project to be resolved. So definitely any kind of organization will value a person which can show things like this, which can show that they can put the interest of the project being resolved in front of any kind of other interest or a personal issue or stuff like this. So this is because most of the interviews have also this part, or they start with this part, where they ask you a little bit, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then little by little they go in this direction. Tell me about a situation where you got confronted with some difficulties and how you got away from, how you resolved that part. Being only with undergraduate, you can easily talk about an experience with an organization, a student organization, how you resolve something there. You can, or they can ask you, tell me a little bit about an experience which you enjoyed it, in which you took a lead process. And again, a project with a student organization will be something very easy, very nice. How Garnett said, shows involvement, shows leadership, and yeah, definitely get involved. Will never hurt.
Wonderful, thank you. It's a great pitch to get involved in organizations, maybe even start your own on campus or off campus if you want to volunteer your knowledge to help a particular group. These are great suggestions. Thank you. So we've been talking a lot about things to do and activities to get involved in and skills which would be helpful to gain or improve. Nimra, I'm just wondering, how do we write this all down on paper? How do we put this into a resume or CV form so that it attracts recruiters or hiring managers?
So resume building is a skill that, again, you have to start early on to master it fully, and you have to use the resources like your career advisors for help. But then it basically goes like a format. So you begin with the most current experience and date it back. But then the highlight of it is to use the action words that that would pop out what you have done there the most, and also don't just list the job. Like that's in the very beginning I used to just not copy it down, but it was along the lines of the job responsibilities. But then Sarah, my career advisor, she was like, you do more than just the job responsibility, so you should put that down. And then I just started learning that I should be focusing on that, and that differentiates me, or that like the recruiters would be more interested in knowing what I did, or like what was the additional benefit that I provided to them. So I think that's very, very important. And also there's a skills section in the resume that we all should include. That includes the IT skills or the linguistic skills that you know, but they also include the soft skills you can put in if you feel that you're confident in like as Marius was saying, team working and like willingness to learn and all that. So I think that is something that makes you pop out. So resume is the first thing, like a first screening thing. So just make sure that you're very much highlighting stuff that you want to be highlighted about your personality. And same goes with LinkedIn or any other form of your social media presence. In LinkedIn, it's not limited to one page, so you can add in certain media content. So for example, I added the newspaper articles that I have written. So if someone's interested in knowing that, they can go to that link. So just make it unique, make it because every one of us is unique. So make it more personal and genuine. And yeah, I feel that helps.
Wonderful, thanks. And I really liked how you highlighted showing all aspects of yourself. That 3D version of you can definitely pop out in the resume and LinkedIn. So I know you're not hired to be someone who's editing or writing a newspaper, Nimra. You're in accounting, but you're also showing those other skills that you have. So that's wonderful. So thank you very much. Juliana, you're up next. I am just wondering if you could talk about your experience regarding a successful search and what role networking and social media plays in that. I know we've been talking a lot about social media and networking, but just wondering if you could tell us about how it all comes together.
Yeah, for sure. I think in my personal experience, networking has been the number one reason why I was able to land an internship my junior year, for example. So kind of going back again, I'm going to be working with EY, and I apply over this last summer, and I was offered the internship in November. But looking back to when I was applying, I realized how my process began way before last summer. So even since my freshman year, I've always been really involved with the business club in Stillman called Alpha, and they're a big national organization. And through being involved and through going through to all Alpha events, through going to all the career center events, so the career fair, all networking events, I was able to meet so many professionals from so many industries. And again, that sense as a freshman, as I was business undecided, so knowing so many people from companies like EY in accounting, but then I knew some people in the New York Mets and stuff like that. So I was really trying to, again, having no idea what I wanted to do. I wanted to have as much exposure just to understand what a day in the life of each professional looked like and see what I think I would like doing in the future. So again, networking, when I applied to my internship last summer, during that application, I reached out to people in the company that I met my freshman year. And it's actually, you'd be surprised how much people remember you if you really try to set yourself apart. So even literally after 2 years of meeting them, if I met them my freshman year, I reach out to them saying, hey, I just submitted my application. And so many people that, again, I met so long ago were like, perfect, like I'm going to send a recommendation to the recruiter right now, or let me know how it goes. And you'll be so, it's really rewarding to see that it's those connections that really help you get to where you are. So I know, yes, my resume, I was qualified for the position if I got the internship, but I know that way beyond my qualifications, it was the connections that I made in the company so long ago that helped me also getting there. So I know it's been said so many times before, but again, it's never too early to try. I remember, and Bob Franca knows this, freshman me, like I went to absolutely everything. Like I would go to career fairs and have employers tell me, well, you're a freshman, what are you doing here? And I would just be like, why not? And looking back 2 years later, I'm so thankful I did all that. So again, just never too early to start, and just try to set yourself apart with every person you met. You never know how they're going to help you in the future.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. If we have some freshmen, even sophomores who have never been to any networking or have never used the social media as a platform to network, just go dive in and start. Thank you, Juliana. And I know earlier you had mentioned that actually you met one of our panelists, Garnett, while doing this sort of networking on LinkedIn. So Garnett, I'm just wondering if you remember that interaction and if you could share what was impressive about Juliana, the way that she might have approached you, or the content, or some of the questions she might have asked, and if not, just what your recommendations might be.
Yeah, so like similar to what Nimra said, like you get to show your whole more aspects of yourself on LinkedIn. So I played soccer, Juliana played soccer as well, and that's something we have in connection. Like just like people reaching out to me, like, okay, you have a lot of candidates reaching out to you, other candidates, other people in your network, and people who are interested in internship opportunities at your organization. So when she reached out to me, and like I glanced at the profile, so she plays soccer. So like we had a connection right there, and the conversation would be a lot easier. We can talk about a wide variety of things, and plus we both played for Seton Hall, so it was an easy connection, and like that type of relationship is something you will remember because you talk to so many people, and I guess you try to nurture those relationships, but there's certain relationships that are more meaningful once you have a lot in the commonality in place. So yes, I do remember Juliana, and yeah, we haven't talked as often, but I know when I hear the name Juliana, I will know what I can remember our conversation. So it's like certain things want to leave a lasting impression, and by you being able to showcase yourself, like even your personal aspects, your hobbies, that will be more meaningful for that individual. Like I know I'm sort of getting off the topic, but when I had my interview with Prudential, and my interviewer saw that I played soccer, his daughter played soccer, and we spent a part of my interview talking about soccer. We also lived in the same town. We started talking about the development of our town. So me going into that interview, like it wasn't an interview, it was just a personal conversation, and that's how that's like where things can be. You can make things like a tense situation a lot more relaxed. So Juliana and I, our icebreaker was soccer. So we can go and talk about a lot more things about technology, opportunities, and so forth. And then I would say, yeah, I would definitely I'll put more effort into helping Juliana because I can relate to her from an international student level, soccer, the challenges we face as student athletes, among others. So just having that relationship, it makes the whole process, I wouldn't say easier, but it puts you in a better position to grow your network and obtain additional opportunities.
Great, thank you. So it seems like making a good first impression right away, and then close second is getting right in there and getting that connection, whatever that is. So if it is sports, or if it's that you're both Seton Hall alumni, that's also important so that people remember you not only for being an international student, but also for that other extra element to continue the conversation down the line. So thank you for that. Nimra, I'm just wondering if you could let us know your thoughts on following up after a networking situation, or even after an interview situation. What are some best practices, and maybe if you could share an experience that you had in success in doing that?
Yeah, sure. So just relating to the point that Garnett and Juliana just said, that personal connection that you make, which can be on any topic like soccer or anything, that's very much important, because when you follow up with someone, it's always advisable to follow up after after your conversation with anyone, even if they don't have a job opening right there and then, but you should always thank them for their time, and you never know, they would have something later on. But then when you make connection to that specific thing, it just shows the recruiter or any professional that you meet that you were genuinely listening to them, and you want to invest in that networking connection. So like that's what I always do after meeting someone. When I'm emailing to thank them, I always point out to any like a Seton Hall basketball game, or if we talked about I don't know, like traveling somewhere or something just a random thing that that was brought up in the conversation. I just relate to it, and then like it just keeps the conversation flowing, and then probably after a career fair, the recruiters would see a lot of gratitude emails, but then yours is gonna pop up because you mentioned a specific thing that you talked about. So I feel that's very, very important, because not only because networking doesn't mean that you add that you just boast about, oh, I have like 50 connections or so. It's just like some quality connections that you can maintain, and that goes like not only in your college life but after that as well. So yeah, that's why I feel it's hard to maintain a networking connection, but then it's very, very important, and you got to invest in that.
Knowledgeable advice. Thank you so much, Nimra. Yeah, I definitely agree. Quality is very important, especially over quantity, and maintaining those relationships. You never know when you might have a question or would like to pop back into that conversation that you had, and making sure that that network, that person, you've been treating them that way, and you've been keeping in touch with each other. That's wonderful. Thank you. So Garnett, I'm just wondering if we could go back to resume and CV. So since we were talking about being from the other side of the fence, the hiring side, interviews, work, and internship experiences, if you could share any sort of further insight. You were talking about special projects maybe, or academics. What really can international students highlight that sets them apart? I know a lot of the time we're talking about international students needing to work doubly hard. So what does that actually look like?
I had some challenges getting on and off of mute, sorry. So,
it's okay.
Yeah, so from a resume perspective, you want like, there are different formats for resumes, and you want to have what some people refer to as a results-oriented resume. It doesn't just outline what you did at the job or what you currently do. You're responsible for the student government budget. You want to you want to show volume. You want to put some metrics in there, so you can mention you manage a budget of $100,000. That basically stands out a lot. Oh, that's a large volume of money. So that basically sort of highlights your accounting background if you're going into the accounting area. And as a student, like students, not everyone, not even professionals, come into that sum of money to manage on a day-to-day basis. So like, you want to highlight certain things like that. You want to make your resume use the term SMART: specific, measurable. You want your objectives to be attainable, relevant, and timely. So you want to put in like some metrics. You completed like a major milestone or project within 3 months. It shows how productive you are. So from a resume perspective, I would recommend highlighting certain things you completed. So that's one thing. From skills perspective, yeah, as I mentioned, look at skills you would like to develop to help with your without marketing yourself. And a lot of things you put on your resume, like you want to be able to speak to them in an interview. I'm the type I try to look for inconsistencies. So if I see an inconsistency, and I came across it where I came across a couple of inconsistencies where I caught in the interview line, like I'm not trying to call you out on anything, but I'm just trying to see the relationship, and I want to see your credibility, how credible you are. So if I see something that seems to be a little outrageous, I might question you on it. And if you can't really speak to stuff that you put on a resume, I will immediately rule you out of being considered as a candidate. So you want to be honest in your resume. You want to highlight accomplishments, and what else? Like practice. Like sorry for the background noise, but a lot of people, candidates, they wait too long to practice, do mock interviews. The Career Center is a resource where you can do that. You can even leverage your professional network to get some sort of experience. Everyone will have a variety of questions, and with the different networks you have, they will come at you with different questions, making you better prepared to answer and understand the environment you would be in when interviewing. So I would say those are three key things I would mention. There are a couple more but I don't want to take up too much time. But if you would like me to continue elaborating, I can also do that with also follow-up questions.
Okay, thank you, Garnet. I appreciate it. Marius, I'm just wondering if you could share any additional things there that Garnet was speaking to. I know you were talking a little bit about your various experiences and interviews. If you could think about the most effective combination of some of those things that really helped, that you really felt worked when you were interviewing or networking, if you could speak to those.
So I'll highlight again what Garnet was saying about putting the accent on accomplishments versus responsibilities, and yeah, I think this is the most important that they are looking for, and using numbers, putting there if you worked with students, with how many students you worked with, if you manage a project, for how long you manage that project, and yeah, some measurable parts. Also, don't have, I think this is well known, but don't have blank spaces in your resume. And what is been discussed until now, you can fill up those blank spaces also with extracurricular activity. So being part of an organization, you can put a membership there. Another thing which I didn't mention until now, as you go from undergrad to grad school, and a lot of the international students are also pursuing that. So not going now for OPT, but going first to a grad school. So meanwhile, just getting a CPT, and after that in the grad school is the point at which you should look up for professional organizations. So professional organizations will gonna give you again networking. The idea of we're gonna give you lots of opportunities for networking, and on another part, you can get grants. You can apply for grants for traveling to meetings, for different activities. And being an international student, that is very important, because when you're gonna do your green card application, they're gonna ask you, all right, have you got publications? Have your name appeared in newspapers? So all of those are connected to what you have accomplished in terms of real life accomplishments, getting grants, being published, doing research, and so on. So you have to think also about that. And it's now the time to do it, let's say like this, and to build up your resume. And everything has to be towards building up your resume.
Wonderful. Really important to sort of map out your time and make sure you're doing a lot of prep work now. Thank you. So finally, Nimra, I'm going to ask you if you could share, after all of our very insightful comments, what is the one thing that you would recommend that students, international students, do now to best prepare themselves for a career in the US if that's what they wish to pursue? And please share an experience as well.
Well, to summarize everything, I would still press on that main thing of planning ahead. That's very much important, and doing your research. You should know the rules, and yeah, I would also like to say timing is very much important, because for me, I remember when I wanted to do a lot of internships, but then you need to see that how many hours CPT has, because that doesn't affect your OPT. So you need to you need to do the research before and ask the right person. Like you have OIP, the Career Center. Again, use those resources very wisely. Know the timings, because they impact a lot. Yeah, and that all begins when you plan ahead. If you wait till you graduate and then find a job, probably that's going to take much longer, and then you only have 3 months or 60 days after you graduate to stay in the US. So it's very much important to just do everything ahead. And as Juliana was saying too, I am very thankful that I started doing everything since freshman year. So again, it's never too early to start. So yeah, that's what I would say. And obviously, as everyone mentioned, while you're doing all the research, build your network, because that's going to help you a lot as well.
Thanks, Nimra. Juliana, did you have any other suggestions for research or resources which would be helpful for students?
Sure. I would say my number one networking tip would be to never ask for the job right away. I know like it was, again, very constant throughout the panel, but you want to set yourself apart through those very unique conversations. So never let your first question be, well, am I eligible for the job, or how do I apply, or all these things regarding the job. Try to find something you have in common with the employer or professional from the company you're interested in. And again, by making yourself apart, even if at the end of the fair or whatever networking event you went to, even if you didn't even talk about the job, you know that now you have a true connection with this person, and in the future either they're going to reach out to you, or once again when you find a position that suits you well, again, no matter how long after, you can always reach back to them, and it will only work if you have that true connection. So again, just going to networking events, going to all these professional events with the mindset that you're there to make connections, you're there to get to know people, to get to understand them, and the work will work out at the end.
Wonderful, thank you. That's just outstanding. What a nice way to wrap up the afternoon with this insight. So I really want to thank our panelists in providing such an honest opinion.
Sarah,
yeah,
there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, definitely. We'll go ahead and open up the floor to the audience. If you could just take a moment to type any questions into the message box. And Bob, if you could go ahead and share some of the questions we've received.
There's a lot of them, so some of them you've covered, but I'll start with the process issues. I think you all did get into this in degree, but the relationship between, moving from, the student visas into the work permits and what CPT and OPT and H-1B, and what's the lottery system and the green card and how all of those things kind of fit together.
Okay, great. If the panelists, since I can see you behind the scenes, if whoever wants to go ahead and start answering, if you could raise your hand, or Garnett, if you want to chime in too.
Yeah, sure. So CPT, that's curricular practical training. So with that, you have well, you still have to go to the Office of International Programs to get the requirements for the application. That is an opportunity that is available to all international students for internship opportunities, co-ops, and so forth. So I don't have like the form in front of me, but you are eligible to work during the semester in the form of a co-op where you can gain the experience. If the internship is paid, you get additional income, and that class has to be basically the internship has to be associated with a class. So you have to find a professor who is willing to partner with you for that co-op. So you will have assignments. You will have to write a summary each week on what you did, what you learned, and it will be in a project form. So it will be best of both worlds. You get credit for it as well. So you're getting credit, you're working. If it's paid, you get an income. You're basically building your credentials, your experience, all of that at the same time. And that is something that's available. And a lot of international students don't really know about it. And that's why you should do your research, ask questions to find out about these opportunities. So CPT, that can be, I know there's a limit. I don't know the exact number, but you should leverage that first. Secondly, when you are graduating, OPT, that's optional practical training. So you have, I don't know if the duration has changed over the years, but you will be eligible for 1 year of optional work within the United States. You also need to, find an employer who's willing to employ you. So that's where you leverage your network, you go through the internship opportunities, so that if you're, you can have the opportunity to possibly be extended a job upon graduation. You work for the year, and there are extensions depending on what field you're in. So as I mentioned in STEM, back when I did it, I think it was 17 months extension, but I believe they increased it to 2 years. So you have 3 years of work, and during those 3 years, you can work with your employer on the next step. So the next step would be getting a work permit, which will be an H-1B visa, and your company would be your sponsor and would file for you. Well, my company submitted the application. They did all the work. They hired the lawyers. They did all of that. All I had to do was provide the information. I've heard that in other cases, for the candidates who will pursue in the OPT, not OPT, sorry, that will pursue in the H-1B visa, they had to submit stuff on their own. So I'm not 100% sure, but I can only speak on my process. My employer did everything on my behalf, and you're not guaranteed to get it because the United States government only allows a certain amount, and they're getting probably over 1 million. I don't know the exact number, but they're getting a lot of applications. So we did it, we submitted it. We had all the information available, ready, and submitted it when the window opened, and I was successful. I successfully got the H-1B visa. So, yeah. So over that 3-year period, like if you're in STEM, if you have that 1 year plus the extension, you don't want to wait till the last minute, because if you apply for it, like okay, you wait the 3 years. And at the end of the 3rd year, you decide to apply and you get denied. It's unfortunate. you can apply for it after your first year, second year. It depends on what you'd like to do, but there's no guarantee to getting that. And then I was eligible for, my company also sponsored me again, and it was a green card. So, and there were other opportunities I had with my organization. We had options. I could have gone to work internationally. I could have gone to work in Ireland on another visa and then come back to the United States. There, I don't remember all of the options I had, but there were a lot of options for me to obtain a variety of visas, and I just needed to decide which one I wanted to pursue. So I went through the route of OPT, H-1B visa, and then I was eligible to get my green card. So that is what the transition was for me. I would say I was very fortunate throughout that entire process. Even for CPT, I had professors that were eager to work with me on my internship to see what I was doing in operations and stuff. So it provides a different perspective for the professors, because it's not the same type of activities in the classroom. You get into actually practice what you learned in the class at that internship, and they've been able to get the feedback on how you applied certain things. It's very meaningful to them because it shows that you are benefiting from what they're teaching. So they feel a self of fulfillment knowing that you are actually putting forward what they taught you in the classroom. So it's great for them as well. So I'll stop there. I hope I covered the transition and questions about the different types of opportunities.
Great, thanks so much for that. Bob, if you could share some of the other questions that we have.
Yeah, there's a bunch. So here's one. So many of you have covered this already, but you've sort of alluded to the fact that it's not necessarily companies that have general sponsorship policies, but there are specific jobs that they make exceptions to the rule, and it's in what Nimra and all of you have said is by acquiring more technical skills, critical thinking skills, as Garnett mentioned, it helps you position yourself for companies to consider sponsoring you. The question is related to that, saying, how does that apply in terms of technical skills, critical thinking skills, and all of that stuff to fields that are not necessarily seen as technical areas? And the ones that came up were communications, public relations, special education.
So I'm just wondering if Marius or Nimra or Juliana, if you had any insight into that. Or maybe some experience that you'd like to share.
Well, Sarah, I was just on a webinar yesterday where basically all fields, including public relations and communications and nursing and education, are leaning towards all needing to be more technical, more analytical. So even in those fields, in PR, data analytics is becoming more and more important. Clearly, learning whatever the coding languages and programming languages in each individual industry is going to be important. So that's what came out, and that's coming from fairly good sources like the Burning Glass organization and Gallup, as well as other pretty prestigious surveys.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, Bob. Actually, just thinking in some of the employers that I'm speaking with that are not these, traditional tech or high business organizations, everyone is seeking these. So I think to give a general concession of what everyone has been saying, is to start that process, do what you can, meet with folks who are industry leaders to gain insight into some of these requirements, how they did it, asking their advice, doing what you can, and taking the time now while we've got maybe a little bit more time on our hands, maybe not, taking advantage of some of the free webinars, tutorials, some of the MOOCs that are out there that you would have normally had to pay a lot of money to gain some of these hard and soft skills. Thank you.
Okay.
So
The next
Sarah,
question is somewhat related. So it's, if I were interested in one of these fields, or any field, public relations, communications, special ed, nursing, you name it, what are the best areas that I could go to network, find people who I could network with? And in addition to that, what platforms, technology platforms, would be good for me to pursue to find opportunities where they're international student friendly in an area that I would be interested in?
So I'm just gonna pick on Nimra here, because I know from experience she's got actually some experience in that. Any of the platforms that you know of that you've used that we haven't talked about, just go ahead and name them.
Well, in general, I would just say that it doesn't matter if it's business or public relations, anything. Make use of the events that are on campus, or like virtual events that we are having right now. But otherwise, I know there was a platform that Bob used to tell about, Meetup, that holds different, and there are a lot of professionals that hold different events, and then you can join them. They are related to data analytics or AI or anything that you're interested in. That's a good one. Otherwise, I personally haven't used any such platforms except LinkedIn that was talked about, but I would just say that make networking your routine habit. Like I remember, I used to be an introvert, and I was very much, maybe I still am, but I was very much intimidated by talking to people, but then you just make it your second nature by practicing it. So whoever you meet, like probably you're meeting someone on the bus and then you start talking to them, just don't exchange business cards, but again, just dig deep into it. If you run out of questions, just ask meaningful questions, like how your day-to-day routine is. Yeah, just make it that way, and whichever field you're in, I think you will come across people if you genuinely invest in that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
I would like to add to that as well. For each industry, there are a lot of organizations that have chapters within, that are local. Hold for 1 second.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was saying, like, there are a lot of organizations, like industry-specific organizations that are local, like in the area, that have conferences. They have networking opportunities that are free. They don't necessarily have to be technology, as you mentioned, communications and so forth. There are they meet, and those are other networking opportunities. There are some conferences that come at a cost and might require some traveling. Like there are women conferences like Grace Hopper. There's like minority organizations. There are a lot of them out there. I don't know. I didn't prepare a list of them, but my organization, Prudential, we sponsor a lot of these organizations, their events, and I personally have gone to a lot of these conferences to actually recruit. So if you can find an organization that you can relate to and probably start attending, that's expanding your network, and you can find out from what employers would consider hiring international students.
I think that's a great point. Attending conferences, getting involved in national and local organizations, As a student, they're typically less that you would have to pay to join or attend than if you were a professional member, or sometimes they're free if, for example, you contact them and let them know that you're a student, you might not have a lot of money, and is there anything that you can do to volunteer, and then they'll allow you to attend for free. I've heard a good amount of students have done that. So just getting yourself out there. I know it was mentioned before about publications, but presenting as well. I know we're talking about communications and practicing that and presenting and building those skills up. You're also building your network that way too. So great, thank you. Bob, was there? Oh yeah, go ahead, Nimra.
And just, I remembered a personal experience that working on campus that someone mentioned, that shouldn't be undermined as well. Because I remember it was spring break, and as a peer advisor, I was talking to a potential student's mother on phone, and she just like asked me, oh, what are you doing here, and like what's your majors and all that. And it turned out that she was a consultant at Deloitte, and she said, I can help you in any way that, so she just shared her contact information. So you never know like where the opportunity is coming from. So if you're working on campus, which we can as international students, so just make the most of it too.
And one last thing I would like to add too, there are a lot of events on campus, and it's there's no harm attending those events. They are informational. You go in there, you get information. A lot of these events have free food. So I remember as a student, I would go to these events for food, well, mainly for food, but I also get a lot of information. So like I would pay attention to the bulletin boards. I would go to the career center. I would get just basically get a list of upcoming events and see how I can whether I can participate and see how I can network with folks. So it's basically you get both food and more networking opportunities.
Great, thank you, everyone. Bob, did you have more questions?
Yes, there's a few more. So one of them is about, there's a group of them are about timing. So for example, when do you bring up the need for sponsorship in the interview process? That would be one. Two would be, what is there a better time to position your graduation? Is it better in the fall or better in the spring? Why don't we start with those two, because there's a bunch of those. So when do you talk about sponsorship and what in graduation matter?
Okay, great. Juliana or Marius, did you have any insight?
So regarding sponsorship, I will go now after Garnett's advices and say do the whole interview and do the whole application without specifying that you're an international. And at the end, when an offer is being made, then specify that you're an international. I can say that I haven't done that until now, but I see Garnett's point of view that you never know. And another thing is that happens a lot to not have experience in terms of job interviews. So I say take advantage also of this, as the worst thing that can happen is the organization to say, oh, I'm sorry, we cannot offer you this job at this time. And in some lucky cases, how was also Garnett's case, they can say, we really liked you and we will gonna fight for you. And then they will gonna go further in this. And I say, in the worst case scenario where they don't hire you and so on, you still got something. You got a job interview and you got that experience, which will gonna prep you more for a next job interview. So that's another thing. I say, take any job interview that is being offered to you, even in the end you don't receive an offer, or in the end you know for sure you're not gonna take that job. because going through the job interview is also an experience that you want to have.
Great, thanks.
To follow up, somebody asked Marius, you had said before something about whether, you could look at the whole country, it's a big country and there's a lot of places you can go. Somebody asked, which I think I know your answer, but I'll let you answer it. Should they pick the location first before looking, or should they take a wide lens and apply anywhere in the country?
Okay, so I think you know my answer already. I say, at least from my point of view, it's very important to go for the job that you want. So let's say I'm also a graduate student, so I had some working experience, and it's very clear for me how I see myself in the future and what I want to do. And it's going through all of that, going through jobs at which I wasn't really feeling that that's what I want, and going through that process and discovering what I really want. Now it's very clear for me that going for that job in particular, for those kind of jobs in particular that I like, that is more important than the actual city in which it is. Unless I'm not going to be completely oblivious, unless it's a very bad place to live in. So I'm not going to give names, but if that place has a really bad negative reviews and connotations and so on because of the location, then yeah, you can say no to a job that is being offered in that particular area. But I say primarily go for the job opportunity and how that will gonna align with your career objectives, and that will gonna help you grow in your career versus it's in it's in the South of America or in the North of America or in the middle in one of the square states.
Wow. I just got a request, Sarah, for if we could share the contact information of the panelists in case people want to follow up. Let me call this one the last question for now. So with this current situation with the COVID-19, jobs are either being reduced, internships are being pulled. You have jobs may actually be changing. What jobs looked like a month ago might not look the same a month from now. So that's happening to everybody. How do you all see the impact on the international student?
Thanks, Bob. So I think this one's going to be open to everybody if you'd like to share your insights. So I'll start with Garnett, and then I'll go to Juliana, and then Marius, and we'll wrap up with Nimra. So Garnett.
Yep. So yeah, with this COVID pandemic, it's tough on the workforce. There are a lot of people getting laid off. People getting furloughed. For those of you who don't know what furloughed is basically you're laid off but still employed with the organization. You're not getting paid, but once the whole situation ends, you can go back to work. And fortunately for me, like my company, we have the infrastructure to work from home. So I would say 90 to 95% of our employees are working from home, and the very small percentage still has to go into the office. Companies like that, it's not impacting their hiring. My company is still hiring. I know we just hired two new members on my team, and the interviews and onboarding is all virtual. So that's new. It's sort of a challenge. And if you could find an organization that has the opportunity for remote working, Well, yes, it will still impact international students, because now that other people are out of work, they might gravitate to that organization as well. So yeah, it poses some issues to international students, but I wouldn't give up hope, because as an international student, you're bringing a lot to the table. You are actually going above and beyond, do double majoring, getting a lot more credentials than the regular candidates. So, like, it's all about setting yourself apart from the others. So, yes, it is a trying time, but don't be discouraged. Continue moving forward, and yeah, there will be opportunities. Like, we don't know when this will end, when internship opportunities will be posted again and things will be stabilized. But it's opportunities will still be there. You just need to have your strategy, which would be even if you're not technical, and I know we spoke about non-technical roles, be a double major, dual major, or get a minor or certificate in a technical field, so you can showcase more about yourself, and maybe that will be the deciding factor in you being hired after this whole situation. So. Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult on the international students. Like, there's no doubt about it. But just keep the faith, and it's all about your attitude. If you really want it, it will show, and the employers actually see it themselves. They see how much you want it, and they will make those considerations. So, like, yeah, I want this person to get the opportunity, and I will go and go through that process to get it. They really will add more value to this organization, because yeah, international students, I can say, and I see it as an employer as well, international students does way more than I'm not saying that American citizens and residents don't do work, but international students put in the extra effort and goes the extra mile just to be quote unquote relevant.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Garnett. And we're going to go ahead to Juliana next, if you want to give your closing thoughts.
Yeah, of course. I would share with regarding coronavirus. I think one of my biggest fears was my internship getting canceled this summer, especially because as a junior, my biggest goal from this internship is to be able to land a full-time offer. And I just think this summer is very, very valuable for what I want to do in the future. So when they canceled classes, I was like freaking out. I was like, if they cancel my internship, I am going to literally, it's going to be the worst. They actually ended up fully virtualizing the whole experience. So now, as Garnett said, we're going to be interning from home, which from one side, I'm very thankful that, again, I've heard a lot of people that their internships and even jobs are getting canceled. So I'm really thankful that mine's still on. It's just going to go virtual. But at the same time, as an international student, again, I was hoping throughout the summer to meet a lot of people and really try to get those relationships. And I've always been, like, I work on campus too, and I've always been someone that I like walking around and meeting people and say, how can I help you? Like, I finished working on this, what else can I do, and stuff like that. So especially for my internship, I was hoping that being in the office in person in New York, I would be able to meet, partners and people higher up that would help me, would become my mentors and help me grow as a professional, which now virtually is going to be a little more challenging. But again, I'm not gonna, patience and just always trying to work hard and just not giving up. So even virtually, I'm going to make sure that I try to build those relationships in the same way, not only with other interns, but with my boss, with my recruiter. I'm still going to do all my networking work through LinkedIn now, because I guess it's virtual, so that's as much as I can do. But again, still it's just kind of how you adapt to this situation. So not just only say, okay, because it's virtual, I'm not going to have the chance to meet someone from a different division or anything like that. I'm still going to try my best to take full advantage of the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliana. Marius, you're next if you want to provide.
So I will say that as this thing is still it's still going, this coronavirus situation is still going, that nobody can really predict what will be the results at the end. Definitely there are companies that are being affected more than others, and since you see that at this point, you should try to avoid that, because at this point those companies are really firing their employees. So companies that are in the, let's say, hotelier, restaurants, let's say, flying companies and so on, are something to avoid, definitely. And I would say to assure yourself, look out for positions that you can work also from home. So whenever a situation will be, you can have your job secured.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Nimra, if you want to wrap up our Q&A component of tonight.
Yeah, sure. So related to this question, I was talking to someone and he said something very interesting, that you know how AI and automation was even before this, like that was always there, but then this COVID-19 period, that's gonna be a transition for it to become permanent or like finally be implemented. So probably this is a time that we make ourselves more skilled. So if the entry-level jobs are gonna be automated and all, because it's like working from home for an uncertain amount of time, then maybe like add value to ourselves. And like as international students, we have to do an extra effort anyway, but now it's the time to like actually make ourselves more skilled and have increased online presence, because like there are no more in-person meetings so that recruiters or professionals can find us. So yeah, like make yourself more prominent on LinkedIn or other social media where professionals can meet you. And as Juliana was saying, I was very much afraid about my job offer getting rescinded, but then they sent me an email the other day that they're still looking forward to having me join them. It's just that it's the starting date is gonna probably be delayed, but then it's an online experience. It's a different experience for all of us. We just have to stay patient and strong, not only in this COVID-19 period, but as international students as well. So it's just that, and things will get better, but we just need to keep working on ourselves.
Great. What a way to end the evening. Thank you so much, Nimra. And I really have to say I'm so impressed with all of the questions we've received. I know we didn't have a chance to answer all of them. I saw that our panelists were working in the background answering some as well online there, so thank you. And I really hope this time was useful to everyone participating tonight. We will go ahead and share contacts of all our panelists. I know before we went virtual, they agreed to do that, so we'll go ahead and reaffirm that and then get those sent out so that we can continue the conversation. And for those students who have further questions, you can always reach out to the Office of International Programs, OIP, and as well, you can schedule any further questions for the Career Center via Compass. And I just really want to, again, thank our outstanding panelists. I think we've all just really moved forward in this conversation through your insight, your experiences. It's just so valuable, and it's a great way for us all to connect during this time. And I know our Seton Hall international students really gained a lot tonight, probably more than they can fathom right now. So we just hope to really hear from all of our audience members, our future success stories in the coming months and years. Keep in touch. And thank you so much, all of you, for coming and attending and making this such a wonderful evening. So this ends our forum tonight, and I'll now be ending this live presentation.